Hello everybody and welcome. This is going to be the first in a series of videos talking over battle drills and a couple other things that would be helpful to know as a beginner infantryman or a seasoned infantryman. Really, this stuff is something that you can learn over and over and over again. I know I certainly do. Every time I get a class on it, I feel like I learned something new. So, starting off, this first video is going to be about Battle Drill 1, that being react to contact, but I'm also going to initially start with talking about some order of movement stuff in a formation. Starting off, squad column fire team wedge. It's pretty simple. Your lead element is going to be your containment squad. And in this formation, you're going to have people sort of V off of each other at roughly a 45-degree angle. And of course, the angle and the distance between people is going to vary depending on your terrain that you're going through, the security of your area, and all of that stuff. So just keep that in mind. But for starters, we'll start with this squad column fire team wedge. So we have our lead element, that being our containment squad, and our alpha team leader of that containment squad is going to be the point man of the entire formation. He's got to be the guy who's really on the ball with land nav and is going to be leading us through the objective. Of course, other men in trail as well, the containment squad leader, probably keeping a pace count, probably double checking, the alpha team leader's work, because on top of being the land nav guy navigating us to the objective or to wherever we're going, he's also the point man, so he's got to keep his eyes up and he can't be 100% focused on map and compass because he's at the very front of the formation and very likely to come into contact. So as you'll notice as well, our saw gunners and 320 gunners, our dispersion of fires is made so that we have an even spread on both sides of the formation, because there's really no telling, is the contact going to come from the 12 o'clock directly in front of us? Is it going to come from the flanks, from the sides, and what angle? Now, of course, obviously everybody's favorite acronym, METTC, depending. We might want to keep the saw gunners on one side or the other. It really depends on, do we know that there's a road on one side of the formation versus the other? Do we know that the objective is on one side or the other and we're trying to dogleg onto it? That type of thing. So bear that in mind as well. Behind our containment element, our lead element, we're going to have our CP red, which consists of our platoon sergeant, medic, and an FO if we have one. Behind them, we're going to have our isolation squad. Again, the same layout as our containment squad. In trail behind them, we're going to have our CP black, that containing our PL and our RTO. And then bringing up trail is our assault squad, our assault element. And the main reason of having them in the back is you're more than likely going to take contact from the direction that you're traveling. You're headed towards an objective where you know they're going to be bad guys, whether you're setting up an ambush, you're going to execute a raid, or you're even moving to contact, anything like that. More than likely, it's going to be the guys in the front as we're heading towards the bad guys that are going to get hit first, or from the flanks. Your guys in the very back, your assault element, we want them to be fresh. We want them to be completely topped off on ammo, equipment, and manpower, so that when we actually get to the objective, none of their stuff is well used like these guys up here who would be fighting the fight. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that contact is never going to come from the rear. I'm never going to say that. It's just that the order of likelihood of us taking contact and someone who's going to need to fight the fight the most as we're moving is going to be these two lead squads. Now, of course, this also means, if you've noticed, we've got our squads here, but wedged off of our squad leaders, we also have our gun teams that are spread out across the formation. Depending on how your unit is structured, you may or may not have belt feds, aside from saws. I'm talking like 240s, stuff that's meant to go on a tripod for support by fire. You may or may not have those organically within your platoons. You might have to hire them in from another platoon entirely, like a weapons platoon, or you might have to hire them in from another company. However it ends up taking shape and wherever the manpower comes from, they should be wedged off of each squad leader. One gun team assigned, wedged off each squad leader in the formation, and then your weapons squad leader, along with his AT team, can fit snugly back here, wedged next to our CP black with our PL and RTO. The weapons squad leader is an interesting position. It's a fourth squad leader. He's typically your most experienced, and as a result, that means he's practically, at least on the enlisted side, he's second to the platoon sergeant only. And he has the ability as the weapons squad leader and as essentially lieutenant platoon sergeant to be able to float around as needed. And because he has that weapon system as well, the AT weapon system, it makes a little bit more sense to have your AT attached to him if it's something like a Carl Gustav, something that is reloadable, as opposed to just an AT4 or something like that, which more than likely you would have a squad leader or a team leader carrying organically in those squads. But if you do have a weapon system that loads rounds into their AT weapon system, like a Carl Gustav, you're going to want to have them set up like this in a gun team, no different to an actual machine gun team with a 240. And this is your basic setup for your squad call and fire team Wedge. Now, that being said, there's also all kinds of other things that are going to affect the way that this looks. One of the big ones is going to be your enablers. If you have mortars in your formation, they are going to have to fit somewhere in here. If you have snipers, if you have EOD with you, CST, that type of stuff, they're going to be fit here in the formation somewhere. And it's better to just have them follow either a squad leader, attach them to a squad leader, or attach them to one of your members in each of your CPs, or give them their own little mini formation. It's not uncommon to have a mortar section or a mortar team be their own little wedge spread out between here. So just keep that in mind, that it's not always going to look like this, and especially this is drawn up as a fully manned platoon, also with those machine guns, with that weapon squad. So it's going to look a little bit different depending on your unit, depending on the assets you have available to you, and just the sheer manning that you have. You're not always going to have a 320 gunner. It's sometimes going to be the team leader that carries a 320. Just know that this is the sort of baseline of how it should look. Now that we've covered the gist of the squad call and fire team Wedge, I've broken it down here on purely the squad level, one to demonstrate the individual manning, but also to roll straight into our first battle drill, that being react contact. So here you can see we have our alpha team leader with his saw gunner, 320 gunner, and his rifleman there. Squad leader sits in between the two teams, and behind him you have the Bravo team leader. And as stated, you disperse those fires accordingly so that there's not one side that's heavier than the other. So battle drill 1, react contact, is really quite simple. Your mission essential task list for this one essentially boils down to return fire, get behind cover, and get roughly on line, call out the 3 Ds. While you're engaged in that firefight, your team leaders are going to give fire commands. There's going to be communication up to higher and between teams, and then your squad leader is ultimately going to make a decision about what to do next. So for the purposes of this lesson, we're going to keep it pretty simple. This squad is marching along, whether it is an individual squad or say this is the containment squad at the front of a platoon-sized formation, it doesn't really matter. Say they take contact from roughly their 1 to 2 o'clock by 2 enemy infantry packs out in the open. Like I said, the first thing you're going to do is return fire. So those closest, and obviously being primarily engaged by those enemy threats, are going to engage back. And this also applies if your element has actually seen the enemy first, which is the ideal. That's what we're looking for. If you see the enemy first and you engage them first, that is going to immediately give us the initiative over this firefight. It's going to immediately give us fire superiority, and it's going to determine the momentum of a lot of the fight. Plus, we're infantrymen, we're supposed to be hunting for the bad guys anyway, so you being able to see them first is really part of the deal. Continuing on though, you're going to have these guys engaging. They're going to call out the 3 Ds simultaneously. Many of these steps are going to be done simultaneously, and the other members of your team are going to try to get online as best as possible. Now of course this doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line, especially where cover and concealment are concerned. Sometimes, the best trees, the best rocks aren't going to be in a straight line, so having that, they call it a lazy W, isn't going to be that big of a problem. The only thing you need to watch out for is that you're not so distended that your SDZs for your weapon system in your sector of fire are going to impact other people. Make sure that you get into a safe spot to shoot. So like I said, we're returning fire, we're getting behind cover and getting roughly on line. While that's happening, we're going to call out the 3 Ds. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it's got to be the guy that initially saw or was engaged first. A lot of situational awareness can be gained by a couple of shots in a couple of seconds. So sometimes it's not always going to be the guy that was engaged first that's going to be calling the 3 Ds, but somebody has got to. And the 3 Ds, we'll just cover them here, are in this order: direction, distance, and description. The reason being is calling out direction first is going to give the entire formation an idea of where the actual threat is coming from. People might hear gunshots on one side of the formation and not know exactly where it's coming from. So it's important that you call out, in this example, hey, 2 o'clock. Then that immediately lets everybody else in that team know, and everybody else in the formation know exactly where the threat is coming from and what's going on. And scaling this back up to a platoon-sized element, it's really important that you gauge exactly which direction it's going to be in based on the direction of travel. Your 12 o'clock in the formation is not the same as your 12 o'clock now that you're looking straight at the enemy. If your platoon size element is traveling and you take contact from, say, the 10 or 11 o'clock, it's important that you call that out based off of the direction of travel so that everybody in the formation knows exactly where it's coming from. So we've covered direction. Next is distance. Being able to tell exactly how far away these guys are is important. We'll get to Battle Drill 4 in another video, but Battle Drill 4 is largely dependent upon the distance between the threat that's engaging you and the element being engaged. If it's within hand grenade range, you're just going to pick up and assault through. For this example, we'll say that this distance is larger than hand grenade range, larger than 35 meters. But at this point, we're still reacting to contact. We haven't made any other decisions to do anything else. I use the word decision here pretty lightly though, because sourcing the definition of what a battle drill is, it is a collective action rapidly executed without the application of a deliberate decision-making process. This is supposed to be instinct, and the way that the battle drills are listed out is supposed to be one after the other in a probable event that you do take contact like this. Ergo, you're going to react contact, that's Battle Drill 1. Battle Drill 2 is conduct platoon assault or conduct squad assault. Battle Drill 3 is break contact, so on and so forth. So the communication here needs to be pretty good, and that can basically just be the 3 Ds. If it gets called up to the squad leader on that third D, the description, we find out that, hey, they have a machine gun up here that they're engaging us with. That's a force multiplier. The enemy possessing a machine gun over here and engaging us with a machine gun takes their manning from 2 people to 4. And that needs to be communicated to the squad leader over here so that a choice can be made. And the 3 choices that your squad leader can make, or your team leader, again, depending on distance here, the threat, that type of thing. The 3 choices you can make are you're going to turn it into a squad assault or a platoon assault, you're going to break contact, or you're going to react in your ambush. It should also be noted that while this frontal team is engaging, it's going to be on the guys behind them to pull security outwards. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect, but we want 360-degree security. And if you're moving in a platoon size element, you should have some pretty solid walls on either side. You don't need to be pulling directly behind you unless you get to the very trail element, that being your assault squad. So you can pull security outwards like that. And it should always be on the Bravo team to be prepared to move in case we are going to do some fire and maneuver. And that's essentially it for Battle Drill 1, react contact. You're just going to shoot back, you're going to get behind cover and call it 3 Ds, and then you're going to communicate so that there can be a decision made about what to do next based off of the threat. In the next video, I'm going to cover Battle Drill 2, that being squad assault and platoon assault. Thanks for watching.